Welcome back to the Maybe Yes Sir podcast. Today's conversation is all about the future of golf. Junior participation in golf is absolutely exploding, but the culture and apparel around the game, it's still stuck feeling like a scaled down version of the adult world. My guest today saw that gap and decided to do something different. Jack McAuliffe is the founder of Lil Cut, a youth-first golf brand built specifically for the next generation of athletes. Instead of designing down, Lil Cut starts junior first with a female forward lens and a mission rooted in growth, confidence, and creativity. That vision is brought to life by their 15-year-old Chief Creative Officer, Myla Robinson, a nationally ranked golfer and founder of the Myla Robinson Foundation, which introduces kids to the game through the values of grit, growth, and gratitude. The origin story of the brand is deeply rooted in Winnipeg golf, so we're look forward to talking about that. Jack McAuliffe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Brian. A+ pronunciation on the last name. I don't think we
Stuff.
went over that in any of the pre-chat stuff, so
Yeah.
appreciate that. But yeah, thank you for the very kind intro. I think you summed it up very well. I'm excited to have the conversation, especially with a Canadian audience who will appreciate the origin story probably more than most.
Yeah, and we'll discuss Lil Cut, the brand. But first, if you could, tell the listeners about yourself and, like you just alluded to, the fascinating story and the origin story of it.
Sure. So I'm 38 years old. I'm a lifelong golfer. I was a walk-on golfer in college. So I was kind of, if listeners are familiar with the movie Rudy, kind of the guy who always tried really hard but never really had the game. And I've just kind of stuck with that for my whole life. And I worked in marketing and advertising sales for about 15 years in my professional career until this inspiration for this brand kind of came to me to get it started. And I've been working on it for the last 2.5 years or so. And we're about to launch everything and have been working with Myla and her foundation, as you alluded to. So just really getting into the whole junior golf landscape and seeing where we can help out with it.
Awesome. Where did you go to school?
I went to Boston College, which probably similar to Winnipeg is not the best weather for golf. We had just transitioned from the Big East Conference, where you played all Northeast teams, to the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. So we had Duke, UNC, Florida State, Clemson, all these fantastic golf programs. And, there's 12 teams in the league. We would come in 12th in the ACC tournament every year. And the story is one year we came in 11th. We beat Maryland, and they fired their whole coaching staff. So if you lose to Boston College and the heads are going to roll. That was so yeah, it was a great experience. I actually spoke to one of my former college teammates today, have close contacts with them, but just the chance to get out there and compete at that level and see the quality of players was very special, and I'm very appreciative of it.
So you're from the Massachusetts area, Boston?
Born and raised in Boston. I lived in Long Island for a little bit. I moved when I was 8, lived there for about 10 years, went back to Boston for college. And now I'm in Southern California in Orange County. And I still remember vividly the moment that I decided to move was, for golf practice. Golf was the least important sports program at the school, basically, one of them. So in the wintertime, they would put a dome over the football field, like a temporary dome, right? So all the teams would practice in there in wintertime. And so golf, of course, we had the 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. slot was when we would practice. So I lived off campus, pre-Uber, no buses are running at that time, no way to get over there. So put on your North Face jacket, your Timberland boots, trudge through the snow like a mile and a half. It's like one of those, we used to walk uphill in the snow.
Yeah.
I just remember, at 4:30 one morning, walking through the snow to golf practice, and I was like, I'm moving to California. I don't even know what's out there. I don't know what's going on, but I know it's not this. And I've been here ever since, and I love it. So
But that leads me to my next question. And you saw my Seahawks poster above my shoulder here, I'm sure. So I'm gonna assume you're still a Patriots fan.
Yes, definitely still a Patriots and all Boston sports. So listen, we've had a great run. Really expect this to happen this year, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we'll be watching and rooting intently for them, but you also don't like to get greedy. And I feel like all I've seen is, not to rub it in, but Malcolm Butler highlights
Oh,
all week. So I feel like you might owe us one. So
yeah.
we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
we'll see how it goes. 15 still leaves a few scars, so I'm confident in the squad this year. But like you said, who knows? We'll see what happens next Sunday. Maybe we'll have to have you on shortly after that to debrief the Super Bowl.
That sounds good. You can rub it
Yeah.
in. Feel free.
Getting back to Little Cut, what was the moment you realized youth golf needed its own brand and not just kind of a scaled down adult version of one?
Sure. So the story is I play at a golf course in Southern California that I am, anybody who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with it. It's called Goose Creek. It's a public access facility. It has won several awards for best junior program, for the best golf course, public golf course in Southern California. It actually has a claim to fame, which I've got checked with a few people, which it's the only course in the United States that has hosted every single USGA qualifier that exists. And the reason for that is 2 years ago, they hosted the inaugural Adaptive Open qualifier, which had never been done before, right? But to me, that's a seal of approval from the highest levels of the game. Where if you're doing the women's senior open all the way down to the, USAM or whatever, your qualifiers start at Goose Creek. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
really wonderful facility. Playing there for probably the last 10 years or so. And, even though it's public, we've been able to kind of work our way up to get a steady tea time that we have every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. I play with my dad and a rotating group of characters that have come in and out of our lives.
I'm sure.
But to answer your question, the junior program at Goose Creek, the first one of the week, starts at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. So when I'm not running late and forgetting to hit range balls, we walk from the driving range to the first tee right when the junior program is getting started. And certainly over the last 5 to 6 years post COVID and the growth of the game, we've been able to see that growth in real time at the grassroots level, just from that
Mm-hmm.
50-yard walk that we have. And what's been really encouraging to see is how many different kids are playing, how many more young girls are playing, how many people from different backgrounds are playing. It's been really wonderful to see this game that I've been in love with for my whole life being more approachable than ever before by a wider swath of people. So at some point, I went up to the folks that run the program and just said, this place is very meaningful to me and my family. We love what you're doing. It's so great to see the growth of the junior program. Is there any way that we can support you and help you out? Should we get clubs or balls or gloves, equipment? What do you guys need? And they said we actually could use help with apparel. And that kind of took me by surprise. Wasn't an answer that I was expecting. But they said that when kids show up to the junior program, and it could be their first time on a golf course, it could be anybody in their family's first time on a golf course, right? And what they have noticed is that the kids who are dressed like golfers tend to be first in line. They participate, they raise their hand, they are eager to be a part of the whole situation. And the kids who are not dressed like golfers in a t shirt and jeans, they tend to be a little bit more shy, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more comfortable. And that was a very noticeable thing to the program director. So when he told me that, your mind just immediately plays out the scenario from there, right? And to me, that is, I teach for the first tee as well. And we always talk about car,
Nice.
right? So what is the conversation that the kids have with their parents when they get in the car at the end of class? And you can just imagine if they don't feel like they belong, they can easily get into that car and say, I don't think golf is for me. I didn't feel like I belong there. And to me, that's just really sad, honestly, to think about. If this is this amazing facility that has such a great junior program, is such a great place to learn the game. PGA players, PGA players, high level college players have all come through that exact junior program, and we could lose a kid just because they're not dressed the right way, right? And that can extend for the rest of their life, where they may say, golf, that's for other people. That's not for me, just because of that one experience. So the idea was kind of born from that, to say, this seems to be a hidden barrier to entry that I've never thought about. I haven't heard anybody else talk about. So
Hmm.
let's address this head on and make clothes for kids from their perspective that makes them feel like they have true ownership of their place in the game.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think the Lil Cut name is unique, and I think that where we get into the Winnipeg connection a little bit there. Do you want to spend like 5 minutes just talking to how you arrived at the name Lil Cut? I think it's a great story.
Yes, and feel free to interrupt anytime if I need or anything. So the Winnipeg Connection. So for all of this is a Canadian golf. Well, it's a golf podcast with primarily Canadian listeners, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
hopefully this is an audience that has heard the name George Knudson before, who was the Canadian golfer of the 20th century. Mike Weir before Mike Weir, right? Just an absolute legend. And I discovered him in COVID when there were no sports on TV. I had nothing to watch because that's basically all I watch, right? So I
Yeah,
started watching old Masters highlights. I would watch Tiger Woods 2019 like 5 nights in a row. And eventually the YouTube algorithm said, by the way, we have all the other final rounds of the Masters going
yeah,
back to inception. So I said, all right, that sounds like 50 nights of entertainment for me, right? So I started from the beginning. I watched Roberto DiVincenzo. What a stupid I am when he signed the incorrect scorecard and lost the Masters. And it's really cool. I was a history major in school, so I love kind of going back and learning about all those players. But I'd never heard of George Knudson before in my entire life. And the first time I saw him, he was on the 15th green on the broadcast, and he was standing over a putt for honestly like 35 seconds. And I was like, I know what that means. Like, I have that same thing also. There's a reason I was a walk on and not a recruit. Right. Right. It gets the nerves get to you. So I was like, all right, I'd already pre identify with this guy just because of that. Right.
yeah,
But then the very next shot was him. It was a beautiful straight down the line shot of him hitting his iron shot into the par 3 16th at Augusta. And to be honest with you, Brian, his swing took my breath away the first time I saw it. I'm just a golf swing junkie. For my whole life, I've obsessed over learning about the golf swing and different techniques and all that sort of stuff. And I had never seen, certainly somebody in that era,
yeah,
swing such an athleticism, such a dynamic movement. The sound was different. As I think I told you before, the shot right before him was Tom Weiskopf hitting a shot, who's, iconic player, great swing, great ball striker. This was on a different level, right? And then just his style, right? He has dark sunglasses, which nobody else has. He's got a beautiful cardigan on. He saunters to the tee, nice and slow and chill and relaxed, saunters back after he hits it, takes a nice long drag on a cigarette. I'm like, this is Don Draper in Augusta National. Like, who is this
right.
guy? So I ended up doing a deep dive on him, wanting to learn everything about him. I learned that he had written a book basically in the last year of his life. And to me, that seemed like, oh my gosh, the secrets of the golf swing surely are in this book. It was out of print. You couldn't get it. So it's like, waiting for the lost book or whatever, right? Go try and find
Yeah,
this. And I ordered the book. It came in. And when I got it, I was expecting to get all this golf swing jargon, technical stuff on how he does what he does. And instead, it was very different than that. It was more of a philosophy text than an instruction manual. And basically, for the Winnipeg Connection, he was, he said his whole perception of the game changed when he was hitting balls on the range at St. Charles. There was a flagpole in the distance, and he said, he was really struggling with his swing and trying to figure it out and was trying to go pro and do all this stuff. And he was so focused on the ball. He was trying to hit the ball. And then he said when he shifted his focus from the ball to the target, meaning the flagpole in the distance, his swing freed up completely and he started hitting it. And to me, that's like a Bruce Lee Zen, like change your focus, change your life sort of thing,
yeah,
right? Which was just fascinating to me. So then just, went into I'm a deep dive kind of guy. If I have a rabbit I like, as you can tell with the master stuff, I'm going to go down it. And, he has all these other wonderful sayings and expressions of you don't play golf to relax. You relax to play golf. Like let that one sink in for a second, where
hmm,
it's what works hard all week. You go to the course on a Saturday. All right, this is when I'm going to chill out, You hit your first duck hook of the day. What am I hitting this shot for? Why'd I hit that one? It's like, you're not going to play well if you're stressed, right? Learned the reason he wore the dark sunglasses, the reason he wore all his muted colored clothes on the golf course was to always be in that chilled out state. And just like Ben Hogan, when he would drive to a golf course, he would, about a mile from the course, he'd cruise the car down to about 25 miles an hour and just slowly get into the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
He had an idea of how golf should be played in that way, and that was very unique, and I just became utterly fascinated by him from there. And then of course I learned that the reason that no one else had really heard about him or he had been talked about that much was, even though he was arguably a Mount Rushmore ball striker, top 5 all time or
Hmm.
whatever, thing like that, arguably one of the worst putters who's ever played professional golf.
Right.
I mean, what a Greek tragedy that
Oh,
is, right?
no
Ultimate
kidding.
Achilles heel. So just a fascinating figure. I just was kind of like, again, same sort of mission with the junior stuff of, I think more people should know who this guy is. I think more people would benefit from understanding his thinking about the game, and his main thinking about the game was the book was called The Natural Golf Swing, right?
Right.
So to swing your natural swing. So you go on YouTube now and you see all these different teachers on there, all these different swing instructions. Do this to break 80, do this to break, and it gets to be a lot, right? And I think it can turn people inside out sometimes. And just kind of realizing this idea that we all have a swing inside of us that's your own, and you just kind of have to craft that to the best of your ability. That's also the message that we wanted to get to the kids of, be your natural self on the golf course. Don't try and be a golfer. Don't try and fit into this stereotype of what you think you should be. Express yourself, be the best version of yourself, because no one else can be that sort of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So that became the obsession. The brand was actually called Knudsen at the very beginning. KNDSN. I thought it was cute with the little taking out the vowels there, like a lot of people do with the big
Yeah.
hat. But yeah, I kind of stopped there in case you have any questions or follow up stuff, and we can dive deeper from there if you want.
No, keep going. I think how you get to Lil Cut is even more fascinating.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get there. So I discovered that his son was still a teaching pro in Toronto at Don Valley,
Yeah.
which is a municipal course there.
Hmm.
And so I just kind of cold outreach to him. And I've joked that it's like, what an awkward outreach, right? I used to work in sales, so you're used to cold emailing, cold calling people. But it was basically like, I love your dad. Like, I want to, you don't know who I am. Like, I want
Right.
to talk to you about
Yeah.
it.
Whatever it
Yeah.
was, though, in that pitch, it worked because he contacted you back.
He did. I have the email somewhere. I think I'd cringe if I read it right now. But Paul Knudsen, to his credit, is a wonderful man. He's been incredibly gracious with his time, with his insight, and with his just willingness to listen to what I had to say. He said to me one time, he said, I like your chutzpah, right? And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what you need to do sometimes, right? Just kind of
Hmm.
put it out. So I had a conversation with him and his business partner, David McQuillan, who they're part of Knudsen Golf. So they do
Okay.
have a whole teaching thing up at Don Valley, and they teach at an indoor facility as well. And they said, yeah, if you want to do a clothing brand that is kind of, in remembrance or alludes to or has the name Knudsen involved with it, we'll give you the green light. So as soon as I got that, I wrote an email to my boss and I said I quit, right? From my
No
corporate.
way.
I just was done with it from there. I was looking for a reason, to be
Yeah.
fair.
Right.
But I was like, this is the moment. Let's go. Burn the boats, like all in. Let's do this thing.
Good for you.
And thank you. Awkward conversation with parents and friends and stuff like, what are you doing again? What's this thing? It's
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna go for it. But, there's a lot of serendipitous moments along the way. That year, right when I decided to do that, it was right before the Canadian Open a few years back. And the Canadian Open that year was going to be played at Oakdale Country Club in Toronto for the
Hmm.
first time. And I looked it up and it said, oh, yeah, this is where George Knudsen was a pro. And like he kind of got his start. And there's 27 holes there, and 9 of them are called the Knudsen 9. And that's the final 9 of the Canadian Open. I'm just like, okay, somebody's telling me something, that this is the
Right.
place to be. where I need to go. Right. So I went up there, I met with them, with David and with Paul, had a great conversation, went to the Canadian Open. And just a quick pause here. I want to give a huge shout out to Canadian golfers, right? And Canadian golf fans, because you don't have the golf season that we obviously do in Southern California. But I would say your passion and enthusiasm for the sport, I know it gets talked about a little bit. It's wildly underappreciated. Like, and I have a lot of our mutual friend James, right? I've asked him, can I please be an honorary like Canadian golf or whatever? It's because like we went to that par three where they do the rink, right? Where they put the hockey boards and we're just banging on the boards, like everyone coming up. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, these are like real hardcore golf nuts up here.
Yeah.
As one myself can appreciate when you see that. So went up there, had a wonderful time, just kind of launched everything from there. But then, to your question about how we got to the name Lil Cut. So I came back from that, and for about 6 months or so, hey, we're starting this apparel brand. It's going to be focused on juniors. It's called Newtson, but we spell it KNDSN. And again, being in sales, you learn to read people's body
Hmm.
language pitch, right? Okay, well, why is it called Newtson? What does that even mean? How do you pronounce that? Well, there's this golfer from the 60s named George Newtson. He's this great ball striker, horrible putter, blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, what? What's going on? Right?
Right.
It
Yeah.
would not fit an elevator pitch, which was sad to me as somebody who like revered him and wanted to make sure that his essence or legacy was maintained through this thing. So I said, okay, I need to change the name. And I had an honest conversation with Paul about that, and he was in favor of it. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make sure that it has some callback to George, just so that I can feel that, and we can eventually tell that story when we need to. So the story is Lauren Rubenstein, who wrote the famous Canadian golf author with Tiger Woods, among others. He shared a story about being in the hospital with George towards the end of his life, and it was pretty rough there at the end with the lung cancer. He wasn't speaking very much, but he said a friend came to visit and he brought him a gift. And the gift was a painting of the 18th tee shot at Augusta National. And the story is George smiled for the first time in who knows how long, looks at the picture, holds it in his hand, and he says, yeah, little cut. And to me, that's just really effing cool, right? Like you're basically on your deathbed. You get this, could be the last words you say, right? And you get this portrait, this picture, and you don't think about the money that you made that week because he came in
Hmm.
second, one of his biggest paychecks he got outside of his wins. You don't say Augusta National. You don't say the Masters. You don't say anything else. You say little cut. You say
Yeah.
the shot that you see off the tee, right? And he striped that tee shot on the second hole, by the way. He did hit that exact one. So, junior golf, a little bit of a double entendre, like something that alludes to golf, but then you can bring it back to George and has little in there that represents the youth. But
Hmm.
cool, let's go with it. I got checked it with my co-founder at the
Yeah.
time, ChatGPT, right? Who said, now I have a much better co-founder. Shout out Andrew. But yeah, so that's where we went with it. So built in the name is a little homage to a great Canadian golfer whose legacy I'd like deserves to be told.
Love that story. Such a great story. And he is a legend up here. Like everybody who plays golf in Canada, even like younger kids know who George Knudson is. So really cool that you dove that deep into him and threw all the chips right in the middle of the table, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah. Why is it important for the brand to be female forward from day one? Yeah, I mentioned Myla Robinson off the top. Maybe just talk about your connection there.
Sure. So Myla is a very special young woman who comes from an amazing family that I've been very fortunate to get close with over the last couple of years. She, at the time that we were starting this brand, as a 13-year-old, had decided to start a junior golf foundation to help kids get into the game. So she plays at Goose Creek as well. That's where I had met her. But basically, the story is growing up when she was going to school, she didn't tell anybody that she was a golfer because nobody else in her school was a golfer. Nobody thought it was cool. Nobody thought it was whatever. She's traveling on the weekends, going to go win big tournaments all over and coming to school and just being like, hi. a Myla, not a Myla the golfer, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I guess there's uh, her parents shared that there was like a show and tell day or something at school, and they encouraged her like, hey, show the kids that you're a golfer. And so she set up like a little mini golf setup in the classroom with cups as the holes and taught the kids how to do mini golf, and all the kids loved it. And she was like, oh, this is great. Finally, they can connect with the thing that I'm doing. And she said, I would really like to do this in a bigger way. How do I do that? And they started a nonprofit called the Myla Robinson Foundation to help get more kids into the game. And that was about the time that I had met her and her family. And my thought with the business was you want to build the community that you're hoping to serve first, I guess, right? Rather than just throwing out another polo with a different name on it. And really get a lot of understanding at an incredibly grassroots level what the issues that are facing first generation golf families, primarily new to golf people. What are they looking for? What do they feel like is missing in golf and that sort of stuff? So yeah, over the last, was it 2.5 years now, or 2 years maybe, we've been working on building the foundation. I think we're about to have our eighth event this upcoming Sunday, where we're going to have 100 kids at Top Golf and learning the foundation's values of grit, growth, and gratitude, and getting into the game and kind of understanding it's not about going pro or about getting
Mm-hmm.
a college scholarship. It's just love the game, enjoy the game, have fun with your friends, do all that sort of stuff. She's introduced, after this event, she will have introduced 500 kids to the game of golf,
No
which,
kidding.
to be honest with you, I think that's just the start, right? And I
Yeah.
think that she has a wonderful magnetic personality and a great way about her. And she's a great role model for these kids to help them get into the game. So, to your question about female forward, again, that goes back to walking the walk from the driving range to the first tee and
Yeah.
seeing the junior program and seeing, when you first go there, there's 10 boys, right? And 5 years later, there's 50 kids and there's 20 girls, right? And you're like, this is
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah. No kidding.
Get into it, right? Like this is for you as well. And I had gone down to the PGA merchandise show the first year that we were thinking about doing this to kind of assess the landscape. And there was hardly any junior golf brands that were represented there, and also very few female brands for women golfers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully now that's gotten a lot better. There's several brands that are doing a good job in that space. But it just goes back to representation, to having something that serves the community that you're trying to serve, and that there's a lot of great options out there. We heard from Myla and her friends that they have to go to other sports to get their gear that they
Right.
wear on the course. They have to wear stuff from tennis or whatever, right? And it just felt like a big gap in the marketplace as an opportunity. And also with kind of Mila being, helping us with the creative side of it, that was going to be a great perspective to get to start with. And I think it's also kind of a flex for a boy to make that they can say, oh, yeah, I can rock a brightly colored shirt or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
You have this, I have a weird brightly colored shirt. So I think that, we're definitely not female only.
Mm-hmm.
It's youth first, female forward is the way that
Yeah.
we position ourselves in that
Yeah.
way.
Um, can you touch on Steph Curry's tour, the underrated tour, a little bit? And for the listeners up here, they might not be aware of how impactful that tour is for a number of kids in the California area and throughout the United States.
Sure. And in the UK now, they just launched in the UK. So that's actually how I met Myla. Was I had just read an article about Steph Curry starting a new junior golf tour that was all about equity, access, and opportunity, where he was going to cover all the tournament and travel fees for players and a parent to compete in every event. So as somebody who grew up playing, I would say, at the AAA level of junior golf, right? I didn't play AJGA, played in these other events, but you know how much it costs, right? And to get a college recruiting ranking, you have to accumulate points on the American Junior Golf Tour, right? And in
Mm-hmm.
order to, you have to play in a bunch of tournaments, which means you have to travel across the country, which is very expensive. Your parent has to be able to leave their job, right, to go travel with you for the most part. So it ends up really limiting the pool of players who can do all that, right? And Steph saw that as something that he could fix with his underrated tour. So I just read an article about it, how wonderful it was, and it was just getting started. And getting, I was waiting in line for the range machine, the range ball machine, and the person in front of me, the girl in front of me, had an underrated golf tour bag, and that was Myla, and that's how we met. Because I said, "Oh, did you play on the tour?" She said, "Oh my gosh, no one's ever heard of this tour. I can't believe." I was like, "I literally just read an article about it last week." So I think they're in their fourth year now. Like I said, they expanded to the UK. And just to give an example of like where it can take you, right? And how
Hmm.
awesome golf is for this sort of stuff. So Myla came in, I forget, whatever she needed to do to make it to the season finale, right? So the season finale was at Liberty National. So call it the top 8 players on the female side. You get into the final event of the year at Liberty National, New York. Very cool, awesome course. That's
For
awesome,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
So she plays there. She comes in top 3 or whatever, which gives her an exemption to play in the first ever event that they have in the UK, in London, right? So now she gets to go to London to go play an event. Well, of course, she wins the London event,
No way.
right? Which then gave her an exemption into it. The Faldo series, the Nick Faldo series, has one of their big tournaments in Dubai, right? Which she got an exemption and got to go play in Dubai. So it just shows the doors that golf can open up for you and the life experience that it can
Hmm.
bring to you, given the opportunity and the platform. So Steph is doing really wonderful work in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Really cool stuff. So you leave your corporate job, like you said, you got questions from your dad, your parents, friends. What's the
So
one thing? What's the one thing that, yeah, what's the people just didn't understand when you're explaining the company and brand?
one thing that they didn't understand, it's a really good question. I would say, like, why are you so passionate about this? Probably, right?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it takes a really intense. But what I've learned through this is like you have to be really passionate about what you're doing because there's a lot of like struggle and a lot
Hmm.
of challenge that you go through in trying to start a business. So I think people like kind of like, how are you going to do it? Why are you doing it? What's the reason behind it? And it's just, you know, I don't want to say every good thing, but the vast majority of good things that have happened in my life have happened as a result of something with golf, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's best friends that I've made. I'll just give you the easiest example to give is the relationship with my dad, right? My dad is 74 years old and he lives in Los Angeles. I live in Orange County. We're an hour or so away. And every Saturday, like clockwork, 8 a.m., we have 5 hours together, on the golf course and before and a little bit after. And I've seen these little things that come across Instagram from time to time when it's like, how many times you see your parents per year? How old are they? That means you only have like 25 more visits with your
Sure.
parents, like that. And it's like
Yeah.
pretty depressing if you get into that. So the opportunity to just have that relationship in a unique environment on a golf course, I mean, that's incredibly special. I wouldn't trade that for the world. So I love golf. It's just meant so much to me in my life. And I think the opportunity to make it more accessible and available to people who show an interest in it
Hmm.
is a calling, right? I just know for a fact that that's what I'm meant to do. I'm not meant to sell ads anymore for sure. Like help with that process.
Yeah,
And that's the thing that gets you through the tough days, right? Is understanding the bigger picture and purpose of the whole
for
thing.
sure. How do you see the golf culture changing over the next 10 years as this generation grows up in the game?
I think it's already changed a lot, which has been very encouraging. I
Hmm.
think there's a lot more work to do in it. I think that alternative formats of golf, like I was just at the TGL. I went for the second time down in Jupiter to go watch that. So again, video game background, it's kind of video game golf. There's still some kinks to be ironed out, right? And all my
Sure.
friends who are hardcore golfers are like, "This is the worst thing ever. Who watches this?" And I'm trying to watch it with fresh eyes. Like, hey, if you're new to
Right.
golf, you're not going to tune into CBS for 5 hours on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
You want to watch quick, that's easy to get through on ESPN on a Monday night when nothing else is on. I think the proliferation of YouTube golf has been fascinating to
Hmm.
see. I definitely like turned my nose up at it to start. It's like, oh, I want to watch real golf, not some influencer play golf. And then I watched a couple of the videos. I'm like, this is like great content. I'm like thoroughly enjoying it. The Internet Invitational was like set my timer to when it was being released
Sure.
on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So I think just expanding the idea and the presentation on what golf means, what it represents, what is entertaining golf that people will watch, what is the different type of golf people will play, obviously the clothes, the culture around
Hmm.
it, all that kind of. I'll say there's one thing that I'm extraordinarily passionate about as it comes to culture, and obviously a lot of people are talking about it right now, but it's short courses. I am obsessed with short courses. I took a golf trip to Ireland with my friends last year, and we had like 6 days of playing all these amazing courses in Ireland. But I had found out through No Laying Up, they did a travel series, and they went to this work course called Doolin Pitch and Putt, right? And they said the guy from No Laying Up said it's one of the coolest places he's ever been. So we get done with this whole big trip. Our last round is at Lahinch. We've walked every course. Everybody's exhausted. And I'm like, I'm getting the bus driver to take me to Doolin. Like, we're going. We sit here and drink Guinness. Like, we're on the rooftop
Yeah.
bar we're very happy. I was like,
Yeah.
cool. I'm going to. I went there, Brian. It was the coolest place I've ever been.
Really.
Right. It was my favorite. I hate to say it to the guy who planned the whole trip, but it was my favorite part of the trip. All 60, 65-yard shots. I would encourage your listeners to look it up. The background on my phone is a picture from it. It's like a cow
Awesome.
that's
Yeah.
running. But it's an amazing place because it's so accessible, right? It's the perfect balance of accessibility, but also productivity for a really, really good player. So I learned the backstory of how it was started. It was a local scratch golfer who wanted a nice place for everybody to go play, but he also wanted to work on his 60 yard and in game. And if you've
Hmm.
ever played in Ireland or at any place with the gorse and whatever, a lot of times you're chipping out to 60 yards when you
Yeah.
hit a bad tee shot and you want to make par, right? So I just saw something about Justin Timberlake is doing something with the par three courses. There's that night golf par three that they have in Phoenix now, a
Yeah.
place called Grass Climbs, Rolling Hills.
Yeah. They got their
So I
own
think
league. They have their own league now too.
grass, right? So I would say to your answer about culture and stuff that my eye is squarely on short course, even more so than par three, like
Hmm.
60 to 75-yard courses, because you don't need a lot of land for that. The maintenance is not super expensive. It's a great place for kids, for adults, for good players, beginners, whatever. So hopefully there's more of those type places.
Yeah, for sure. If youth athletes were designing future sports brands, what would look totally different than what they look like now?
So I wish I could answer that. That's probably why I'm having Myla help me, right? Where she
Uh,
would know that. Uh,
yeah.
but I'll give you an example of something that we saw at the most recent PGA show, where I just think it helps to kind of turn the lens around sometimes. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that, there's a brand who I really, really admire. It's called Students Golf.
Okay.
And they have a really good job of getting into the golf space over the last couple of years. They come from a streetwear, skatewear background. So all their first clothes were in that streetwear, skatewear kind of vein, right? If you were to wear that at a country club, probably get some looks, if not like, hey, you got to go change, right?
Right. Yeah.
At the PGA show this year, they unveiled their new line, which is called Course Studies, which is kind of more of like golf specific on course stuff, right? That you could wear. You might get a couple looks, but no one's going to say anything. And I was talking with one of the people who works with them on the creative side, and he was there when they were setting up their booth at the PGA show the night before. So the night before, there's no people walking around. So if you look up booth, you can see everybody else's booth in the apparel section. And he was like kind of freaking out because it was like, we look so different than everybody else does. Right.
Hmm.
And then the show happens and they had incredible validation from the community, from customers, from people, and buyers, right? Who said, "Man, this is different. This is awesome. This is great. This is fresh. This is amazing." So I think what it shows is if whether it's a youth athletes designing it or people from a different perspective, if you stay in the same lane that you're always in and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to tweak it. We're going to change a color. We're going to change a logo. We're going to change a collar," you're not really changing that much, right?
Hmm.
You really flip it on its head and say, how can we do this thing differently? Let's break it down to the studs, kind of start from scratch here. And what does this look like? So I think you'd see some unexpected things, quite
Yeah.
honestly, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty refreshing and pretty cool. Like I remember, was it 2 years ago that the hoodie on the golf course like was a national tour, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, we're gonna allow hoodies, and now you can't watch. I was watching Tori today. A lot of guys had hoodies on. Um, so I think it would look different than anything that you'd expect it to look like. Is my answer.
And for the listeners, what's next for Lil Cut? Like where can the listeners find the brand? I'm assuming it's going to be direct to consumer to start, or what's the vision?
Yeah, so I think we're going to be direct to consumer to start. The hoodie that I'm wearing right now, it's a version of what our first hoodie is going to be. It's going to be called the Journey hoodie for wherever the game takes you. And the concept behind that is we're trying to identify little moments, I guess you could say, in a junior golfer's life on where they might want to wear a golf product, right? It can be lifestyle, but relates to golf because it's now acceptable, if not even potentially cool, to represent yourself as a youth golfer.
Hmm.
We talked before that there's high school boys getting dates off being golfers now,
Yeah.
and that was not the case when I was
No,
growing up at all.
certainly not. No, same with me.
So one of the things when Myla was going to Dubai, I said, when you have that's a 16, 17-hour flight. Like what's your travel game like? Like what do you do for travel? And she said, "Well, I like to have a big, boxy, comfortable hoodie for the airplane because it's cold on there a lot. I want to be super comfortable." I said, "Perfect. Like we can make a hoodie as our first thing that aligns with this intent, right? This product utility of if you're traveling for golf, right? If you're going to go do something, this is the thing that you throw on."
Yeah.
It can be, remember when I was growing up, I would drive to a lot of tournaments with my dad on like a Saturday morning. So we'd load up the car at 5 o'clock. It's cold outside. You got to drive 2.5 hours to make your 8:30 tea time, whatever, and put that on in the car, right?
Hmm.
So we're gonna start with that. We're going to expand. We got a nice relationship with Goose Creek to do some specific junior line with them, which we're very
Nice.
excited about. We're still working through the logo. We had a wonderful conversation with a branding person yesterday who can help us with that and kind of get all that stuff figured out. But best place to follow us is on Instagram right now, Lil Cut LILCUT .golf. We have the website. Thankfully, I remembered to get the domain. It's not live yet. It says coming soon, but it will be live soon. But yeah, I think we're just trying to tell the story, basically, right? Get the word out
Hmm.
and do it thoughtfully and carefully and slowly, not rush things, but also, with a little bit of momentum behind us, it's time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm looking forward to that. I mentioned to you, my daughter's 11, and I take her out to play golf at Elmhurst here, at night, 9 holes, and she's a dancer, so she's got Lululemon stuff and leggings and that type of clothing, right? I'm like, well, you can't wear that to the course tonight. And she's like, well, you alluded to earlier. It's like, well, that's what I feel comfortable wearing, right? Right. So I think there's definitely a market for what you're doing, and look forward to seeing what's coming down the road. So
Thank you. We definitely have to get her some little cut stuff for sure. We'll send a care package her
absolutely.
way.
Absolutely, that would be great. Let's end with some fun rapid fire questions, Jack, just to end things off. When we were chatting earlier, you had mentioned that out of college you were trying to go into becoming a sports agent out of BC. So, first question I have for you: what young player would you like to represent today if you could?
So I have an easy answer for this. There's a young woman named Anna Davis, and she won the first
Yep.
Augusta National Women's Amateur. And she was like on my mood board when I started this thing because she had a bucket hat and like a track jacket that she only had zippered like a quarter of the way
Yeah.
up. swaggiest look, lefty, right?
Yeah.
Just dripping in swag. But by far, my favorite part about her was she goes into the interview room after, and she kind of came from behind, if I remember correctly. So the press didn't know too much about her. So she goes in the interview room after Augusta National, and you get all, and listen, I love Augusta, obviously, but you get all these reporters who are like fawning over, did you watch it with your dad growing up? Like, what does it mean to you to win at Augusta National, such a hallowed ground? And she's like, I've like never heard of this place before. I've never watched that. And now going back to your question about the fresh perspective, that
Yeah.
was awesome. It was like cold water on the face. Like, cool. Like, you don't have to know what Augusta National is at
Yeah.
that stage, right? You don't have to be obsessed with the Masters. You can ball though. You can get the
Right.
ball in the hole, right?
Yeah.
And so since then, followed her career. I think she's at Auburn now, or she's trying to go pro. But she just struck me as somebody very, very cool with a unique perspective that I really respected. So I'm sure she
Awesome.
has a great agent.
Yeah.
That would be my answer for sure.
Anna Davis, I love that. What player
Yeah.
is under marketed right now?
So another easy answer for me, going back to Goose Creek, is a player on the PGA Tour who I would encourage all of your listeners to watch and support because he did have a stint on the Canadian Tour. His name is Rico Hoey,
Oh yeah.
and he grew up playing at Goose Creek. The guy who runs Goose Creek, Ross Fisher, is just an amazing mentor to me. I can't thank him enough for all the help he's provided, but he coaches him. And, the question is who's undermarketed, right? But I think Rico is the specific example, but from a larger context, and you see the LPGA getting into this now with what Craig Kessler, their new commissioner, is trying to do. People like stories. People
Mm-hmm.
like human interest stories. All for the last 3 years in the live era has been how much money are these guys making? Oh my
Yeah.
God, the FedEx Cup is 5 million. At a certain point, you glaze over, right? Like, do I care if this 5 million? Oh, he's already got 150 in the bank. Like, what's the big difference, right? But people overcoming adversity, people like showing resiliency, people going through challenges that you can kind of relate to your own life in a certain way. That's fascinating stuff to me, right? So Rico was an amazing junior golfer. I think it was a 4-time All-American at USC, University of Southern California. Won some really, really big tournaments, US Junior World, stuff like that. Gets onto the tour. I think he had some injuries where he had to really go back to the bottom. He was playing at the local Golden State mini tour. I remember seeing, and
Yeah.
he made a putt for $1,000 check, right? And it was like a big deal that he won that tournament. And then he goes back onto Corn Ferry and he gets into the top 30, and then he gets his card. And he was like had to finish last year in the top 125, and it was like touch and go there for a little bit, but he guts it out in the tournaments. And then last year, this most recent year, they changed it from top 125 to top 100,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he was at like 108 going into the fall series and had an unbelievable fall series, right?
Yeah.
He gets all the way into the Aon top 10, right? So he's in that number 56 or whatever he was, which
Uh-huh.
means he now has an exemption into Pebble
Signature
Beach and into Riviera, right? And so that your whole life can change with
for
that.
sure.
So that's somebody who was playing in the Golden State Mini Tour 3 years ago after being this incredible player and going through this adversity, now all the way back over here, right? So every single marketing piece you see out there is, how much money these guys are making, or this, like, it's focused on 4 or 5 guys. I think those stories, if you could tell them the right way, really deserve to be told.
100%.
So that would be,
Yeah. And like Michael Brennan, when he won in Utah, Rico Hoey was in the final group on Sunday with Michael. And I was chatting with Michael offline. I'm like, Rico seems like a good dude. He's like, honestly, Brian, like Rico is a great dude and a total flusher. Like that guy hits driver better than almost anybody he's seen. Like hard cut every time, right? So yeah, cool.
some would say a little cut, Brian. Stick with the theme, will you? So his nickname is WG. Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say his nickname is WGD, world's greatest driver, right? And I also verified this at the PGA show with the TrackMan representative. He owns the record for the highest TrackMan combine score ever recorded. So arguably the best ball striker in the world. If we could get the putting figured out,
Yeah.
a la George, right?
Right.
To the long putter.
Yeah. He's gone to the wand. Yeah.
Great playing. Yeah, worth following for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Best public access course in Southern California. What do you think
So
it
you
is?
know my answer to this is obviously going to be Greek, right? So I think I should give you an alternative to that. It's a great question. We're very blessed in Southern California with a lot of good, great public access facilities. I'm going to shout out two. So one is called San Clemente Municipal. It's obviously in San Clemente. It's the municipal course. They call it the Pride of the Pacific. It's like a beautiful course in an awesome surf town. You can play it a sunset round, 9 holes for $30, and it's just a really awesome facility with a great people there. But probably the other answer would be Goat Hill Park, which is in Oceanside. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, you could bring your dog there.
Yeah. Yes, bring your dog. I mean, awesome place. I have some friends from the UK. Whenever they come in, they're like, "We got to go play Goat Hill." I think it's like a par 63 or something like that. John Ashworth, who was obviously Ashworth, also Linksole, took it over. They have a caddy program there that promotes young kids, like walking, carrying the bag, and then getting caddy scholarships from there. They have a 3-hole like super kid short course that's all like 25 yards, exactly what we were talking about before. So they do an amazing job of promoting the growth of the game for the next generation and stuff like that. So Goat Hill is an awesome place.
I looked up Goose Creek. Looks like a great facility. Huge range. Like the layout of the course looks awesome. That looks like a good spot.
Yeah. You have to come out. Trust me. We'll get you in that 8 a.m. tea time. I'll kick my dad out. No problem.
No, keep your dad in. Let's do it. That's good. Hey, you talked about the PGA show and one of the products you liked there. Anything else that stood out at the PGA show that you're like, oh, this is really cool?
So as part of this whole thing, I have an indoor golf facility as well that we're making a part of the brand that's primarily servicing junior golfers, and will also be a very small retail location as well. So kind of a community center, performance center, retail. And so I have a TrackMan system in there right now, and we have another bay that I just haven't had the money yet to upgrade. So I'm like, when I hopefully do get some money, I can upgrade it. So we went over to the simulator section of the PGA show, which was a mistake. It's like shopping at Saks Avenue when you have like no money in your pocket. But Foresight has a partnership with PutView, where they have a simulator where you just do your regular Foresight simulator, but in front of you is a putting green.
No way.
That's installed by PutView. And it basically, there's probably, was it 6 or 8 holes on the putting green, but it's like, it's pre-contoured. So there's almost every break that you can think of. And once you get to the green, once you're within 20 feet of the hole, it's like this light comes down, a spotlight, right? And it points out exactly on the green where you are, and it directs you to a hole, and it is the exact break that's on the green that you're playing. It's like pretty next level stuff. Basically, teach whatever. I didn't ask the price, right? Because I couldn't afford it. But it was, Myla went on there and hit one. I hit one. Gosh, that was really, really cool. So Foresight PutView was probably the coolest thing that I saw while I was there.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get you out of here with the last question. One word you want people to associate with Lil Cut in 5 years?
Progress, I think is probably what sums it up the best, where I think this is an ongoing process right now. It's funny because I have a foot in both worlds, right? Where I think that there's people who loved golf before COVID, and there's people who got into golf after COVID. And I think there's some segment of the pre-COVID population that you see it on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, hashtag shrink the game, right?
Right.
It's too much. We're doing too this sort of stuff. So you kind of see that. And then you also see stuff on the other side of people who've gotten into the game be like, this is what golf is. Like, you guys haven't upgraded this in forever. Like, what are you guys doing over here? And I think that, both can, that's a healthy tension, right? Like, not everything that's new that's coming in is good. There's really strong values associated with the game about character, honesty, integrity. They always say, like, the best way to reveal somebody's character is by playing around a golf with them. You'll kind of see it, right?
Hmm.
So that is all intrinsic in what makes the game so special. But there's obvious upgrades that can be made to making it more accessible, to making it more affordable, to having more people be able to enjoy it, to get involved in it in whatever way possible. So I think that the goal for the brand is just to be part of the progress, putting it in the momentum of hoping to push it forward in the right direction. And that's one of the reasons why George, tying it up at the end here with the Canadian theme, is so central to this, and why it was so imperative that something about him or something that he said or whatever was the name of the brand. It was infused in there
Right.
because, as I said,
Yeah.
I'm a history nut. I'm a golf nut. Love the history of the game. And I told Paul this basically every conversation. There is nobody that I have ever come across in the history of my understanding of and learning and researching about golf that had a better understanding of what golf represented than George Knudson. When he says, you don't play golf to relax, you relax to play golf. We would all
Hmm.
be better off understanding. When he says he's talking about the golf swing, but he says nothing should be done at the expense of balance. That's a life lesson. That's basically what Oscar Wilde, everything in moderation, that sort of thing, right? So I just think that you got to really hold true to the best core values of the game and bring them into the next generation at the same time without losing, kind of that core element there. So yeah, if we can be part of the progress that helps to do that, that would be a nice thing to have there.
Really good. I think you're doing something great, Jack. Appreciate your time. Listeners, if you want to get in contact with Lil Cut, you could do so via Instagram at littlecut.golf and watch for what's coming out. Appreciate your time, Jack.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on. A fan of the podcast. You're doing great work as well. And just really appreciate the platform to talk about all this stuff, especially with a Canadian golfer like George, who your listeners will appreciate, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.